We begin this report in Israel, where the deaths of 6 Hamas-held hostages have sparked protests across the country, with people demanding a ceasefire deal. Much of the anger among protesters is being directed at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for failing to commit to a deal to secure the release of hostages held for the past 330 days. Netanyahu expressed his devastation earlier today. He also vowed once again that Hamas would, quote, pay a heavy price.
I am begging for your forgiveness that we did not succeed bringing them home alive. We were very close, nearly there.
Funerals were held Monday for some of the hostages found dead in Gaza over the weekend, including one for Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Poland. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayeb has the latest on this. Imtiaz?
Well, for a second night, Israelis have taken to their streets in their thousands to express their rage, mainly at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who they blame squarely for the killings of the 6 hostages whose remains were found in Gaza. They say that the Prime Minister has stood in the way of a ceasefire and hostage release deal, and they are demanding that a deal is agreed to now. And yet, here we are again, seeing thousands of people desperately trying to see that kind of agreement happen. But again, we've been hearing politically from Mr. Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders in his extreme far right-wing cabinet who are pretty much suggesting that a deal is not close. Now, in the background of all of this, the U.S., of course, has been strongly pushing for this agreement, which would see Israeli hostages released from Gaza and a ceasefire in the fighting in Gaza over this 3-phase period. But as we've been saying, that deal still seems a long way off, no matter the fact that there are so many people who've come out here to express their anger and to express their grief. Chanel.
Imtiaz Tayeb, thank you. And for more on this, let's go now to CBS News contributor Robert Berger in Jerusalem. Robert, want to start with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address today. Talk us through some of the big takeaways from that.
Well, you know, if I would describe this news conference as defiant. Netanyahu stood by a key demand that has been a sticking point in the negotiations all along and really a deal breaker. He said that Israel would not withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor. That's the border between Gaza and Egypt. He says that that's a weapons smuggling lifeline to Hamas, and Israeli troops won't withdraw from there. And Hamas has said all along that unless Israel withdraws from there and other parts of Gaza, there's not going to be a deal for the hostages. So it seems like both sides are basically digging in, and a deal is no closer now than it has been for several months.
And Robert, I wonder if this was sort of an appeal to his nation to be or to stay on his side. And if that is what this was meant to be, did it work?
Well, I think the Israeli public is basically dug in to their positions no matter what he said. Certainly, he was appealing to the nation, saying that he's doing his best to bring the hostages home. The people that are out on the streets demonstrating simply don't believe that. They think that for political reasons, to keep his far right-wing coalition together, that he's basically scuttling a deal. Netanyahu's supporters, on the other hand, support him in his goal to destroy Hamas and bring the hostages home through further military pressure on Hamas.
And Robert, before the news of the hostages, there's been a planned temporary pause in fighting in order to roll out polio vaccinations in Gaza, especially for children there. Will this impact that effort at all?
That's going really well so far. It's in the second day of the polio vaccination campaign. According to Palestinian health officials and UN officials there in Gaza, over 100,000 kids have received this oral vaccination so far in a 2-day pause in central Gaza. Now, the plan is a 3-day pause in fighting in central Gaza and then a 3-day pause after that in southern Gaza, and finally a 3-day pause in fighting in northern Gaza. The goal is to vaccinate 640,000 Palestinian children, and it's going better than expected so far.